From the Horror Vision Press, Sean C. Baker's Shadowplay Book 1, Kim and Jesse. If our reflections woke up, would they hate us? Would they envy our world? Would they try to take it? Two worlds on a collision course, and 15-year-old Jesse Roberts is caught in the middle. Shadowplay Book 1, Kim and Jesse is available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever books are sold. Also available, a collection of desires, 7 tales of modern horror. These 7 tales bring the horror home to our modern world.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Ray.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. I'm Tori. Interrupting. Sorry.
We've got to determine whether it's going to be alphabetical or...
You know what? Sean, maybe you should just roll call all of us next time.
Ooh.
Nice roll call.
Yeah. Roll call.
Hey, Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Present.
Oh, man.
Oh, Malaki.
Malaki, there you go. I was trying to think of the... Those are my favorites. Well, guys, welcome to the last days of February 2021. Seems an awful lot like the last days of March 2020 at this point, especially if you're in Texas, where hell hath frozen over, or Texas hath frozen over. To any listeners out there, take care, guys. If you need something and you know us, hit us up. I'll try to send you something. Eduardo, I'm looking at you.
We'll do what we can. Definitely.
Man, it's just fucked up. So
welcome to the beginning of the end, everybody.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, or the second act, perhaps. So the stage is primed for some horror loving. So you guys, what have you seen? Ray, I'm gonna eschew the ladies first rule right now since you seem so adamant against it. No, I'm kidding. But Ray, I'm just gonna guess that you probably have the longest list, because I know the last couple episodes I'm like, save it for the next episode.
And Ray takes the time because I haven't really seen shit. So go.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot either. I do have some stuff, as I'm sure you do, but I'm not like, overflowing with joy to talk about anything. So Ray, kick us off, man. What have you seen?
Here's what I'll do is I can logically pair a couple things together. So
how about you illogically pair? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I can do that too if you want.
No, but maybe, I don't know.
Is it
surprise
like
us.
Wine and cheese pairing?
Oof. Interesting. Well, I watched on Shudder. They have a old horror Hammer movie called Twins of Evil, which actually, to me, logically dovetails into. I also rewatched Lifeforce, the Tobe Hooper movie on Prime.
Yeah, you found it.
I know. I was so happy. And the reason I actually put them together is that I happened to watch Twins of Evil, which is this Hammer horror film. It's about these 2 twin sisters, super hot. I found out later that they were actually Playboy centerfolds at one time. And they move in with their uncle, who's this puritanical minister, and he's burning people at the stake and turning and like leaves of people are there's all these witches, and they dress very common for the period, meaning that the dresses show a lot of cleavage and stuff. It's just that period of time.
It's also a Hammer edict, I believe.
Yeah, I think
no cleavage left behind.
Breasts.
That actually dovetails into the thing about Lifeforce.
Seething breasts.
So one of them actually is kind of the bad one, and one of them is a good one. And it was kind of interesting because there's this count and this count makes a deal with the devil, and the devil shows up as a woman and turns him into a vampire. And then he starts going out and attacking people and turns one of the twins into a vampire, hence the Twins of Evil title. Very sexy. No one's very bad looking, or, like everyone's very pleasant to look at, especially the women. They're very attractive. And I realized after that, I watched Lifeforce, and I realized that like Lifeforce is kind of Hooper's homage to the horror Hammer films of the 60s and 70s. Like, if you go back and watch it, oh yeah, because it's got the very, even though they're vampires from space, it has very much the vampire in the new place format. Like, we've discovered, here's this vampire, the vampire gets out, the vampire starts spreading the disease and changing more and more people. We have to figure out who the head vampire is, stop them, and get rid of them. That, and like Mathilda May is the lead female vampire in Lifeforce. And
let's cut to it. She's pretty much like the only fucking vampire you see in that movie.
Well, there's the two dudes, but God bless that woman, because she is naked the entire movie.
The whole fucking time.
Yes. Wow. There's never a moment in that film, like, there's a part where like she assumes other people's bodies or like looks like other people, but she's always naked for some reason when she's herself.
Huh.
And I can't help but think it's because they knew she was super hot and like just had an amazing body. And I think also like it's like the format of the story and how attractive she is very much dovetails into the horror concept and the Hammer concept of horror. And I think it's very much an homage, and especially the whole vampire thing too. It's enjoyable. Like I really liked both of the films. I think they're worth checking out, especially if you're like, have found that I like the way I am with horror, that I like to go back and check out some of the older stuff and see what's out there, and what is the foundations of what we know today. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely worth checking out, I think. And plus, they're, like I said, they're eye candy. Everything, like the women are sexy, the men are bad looking either. Like you can't go wrong with those films.
Tori, so give us your take on Lifeforce. I've never seen this movie. I know nothing about it other than Tobe Hooper did it.
So I saw it, I rewatched it 6 months ago. I'd seen it as a kid. I didn't remember that much titty in it. Like I didn't realize
I didn't either.
And again, like, I'm not offended or anything. I just really didn't expect the main chick to be totally nude. But pretty much, yeah, it's correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but some guy goes up to space. Does he go to the moon? Is that what they're trying to do? Or they go to a satellite? What
it is that it's a British American space operation. And
okay.
His comet is passing by Earth, and they go to gather information about Halley's comet. And while they're near it, they randomly pick up like a ship near it, and they decide to go out and look on it. And when they get there, they find these strange, large bat-like creatures that are all dead. And then they find these 3 people that are in hibernation. And then it cuts to like a month or so later, and the capsule landed. They don't know what happened to the crew. They lost track of them, and they only find one of the astronauts, and they find the bodies, I think in suspended animation, and they don't know what happened to everyone else.
Yeah, so it's like a space vampire, and the reason she's a woman is it's supposed to prey upon like your weakness, Sean, like what you're attracted to, getting you right there.
That's why she appears as different people. She assumes different forms.
Right,
yes.
Right. So to the astronaut that survived, she's this beautiful woman. I think she's like a woman from his past almost, or looks a lot like a woman from his past.
See, I pulled the image from your mind. I am the perfect woman, or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So
But I mean,
it's them trying to scramble on Earth to find out, because she gets out, obviously.
Mhm.
There's and what they do, it's almost like a psychic vampire, Sean. She sucks the life force out of you, so
Yeah.
you're not really dead, but it's leaving almost like this husk of a person.
Yeah.
And there's
I
a
think
great
I've-
practical. I'm sure you've seen it, and not
I was
even
just gonna say, I think I've seen the lauded practical. Yeah. I've seen that somewhere. I think it's probably been used in documentaries.
And
or
then
whatever.
it's
Oh,
the problem too is that it's like vampirism because it spreads. So like the person who that
Yeah.
happens to like comes back, reanimates, attacks someone else, they get restored, but they only get restored for a certain amount of time. So they have to keep doing it to other people. And the person who they've done it to, who becomes the new husk,
You-
will then reanimate at some point and attack other people. So it just keeps
Okay.
spreading exponentially.
Yeah, it's from the mid '80s, so it's going off the whole metaphor of AIDS virus, and as
right.
time. It's really cool movie. It's worth it. It's not as much like gore as you would think, or no, not too many monsters all the time, but it's definitely
But plenty of tits, apparently.
Oh yeah.
When
Lot
it
of
lacks
titties.
in gore and monsters, it makes up for an areola.
I'm not mad.
I think that was actually
No,
the pitch for the movie.
Like Tori pointed out, I mean, you can't be upset at it. I mean, what kind of I was listening to this podcast where they were talking about that movie, and one of the things that the guy pointed out was like, man, I forgot about this movie and how hot this actress was, and she's oh my god,
Wow.
she's super hot.
She's beautiful, but you could tell
Yeah.
she's barely 18. And
Is
you're
that
kind of
true?
like, she was pretty young when she did that movie. And I don't think she really did anything after. But Sean, you're seriously like, okay, where do I look now? Because it's just titty all the time in my face.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
but just look at her eyebrows.
Look at her eyes.
Look at her
Nice.
eyebrows. I don't know. It's getting weird.
Well, where does the camera want us to look?
I think right at her. all the
At her other set of eyes.
Nice.
We couldn't afford the practicals, so y'all get titties instead.
In the 80s, that was I'm sure producers were like, look, we don't have the budget for this. How are you going to make up for no practicals? Nudity? Yeah, sold. You actually will double the money now. Well, then can we do practicals? No, leave the practicals out of it. Just use the funds for more
Well,
breasts.
what is the thing for Joe Bob? Like the saying is like breasts, beasts, and blood, right?
Yeah. Breasts,
Like,
beasts, and blood. I believe that's it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's obviously the format
That's
for a lot.
the 80s format, man.
Yeah.
Boobs, blood beast. That's all you need.
Which is funny because when you think about it, for the most part, horror has really gone away from that over the 30 years since that was the ruling edict, and I mean definitely at this point, like I feel, which I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it definitely makes if it's not the music and the clothing and the decor that gives an 80s movie away, right? It's that. I mean, you just know you're watching an 80s movie when it's just certain things. So
Yeah.
It's not as prevalent too because it's not as shocking, when you
it's not, yeah.
Like when I saw boobies as a kid, I was like, oh my God, that's a boobie. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm 36 and I see a boobie now and I'm still like, oh my God, that's a boobie. Like I still like.
So you were one of those people that joined the outcry about the Timberlake Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction.
You should see the letter she sent to the FCC.
And I was like, that was Janet Jackson's titty. Wait, but why is she getting so much trouble? It's her body. Fuck you, Justin. Whatever.
Hey,
Sorry, wrote the first letter to the FCC. Dear FCC, there was a titty during America's Super Bowl. How dare
No, it'd be like, dear FCC, why did you take it out on Janet and ruin her career?
Yeah,
It was
nice.
an accident.
That's true. That is true.
That's funny.
Androgynous, scared of a titty. Anywho,
Yeah.
it's worth it. It is a really cool take though on a vampire, and I like how they mix a vampire and sci-fi somehow. Like,
That's an intriguing concept,
very
definitely.
horror sci-fi movie.
I mean,
Very
it's even more intriguing hearing that it definitely sounds like he set out to make a homage to Hammer, but doing it in space. I mean, I'll tell you, with the Hammer stuff,
like.
it's funny. I don't know if I just have to be in the mood for Hammer stuff or if it was ruined for me by Scars of Dracula. Because I mean, I fucking hated Scars of Dracula so goddamn much that I haven't been able to watch a Hammer flick since. And I really just the idea of I know what their whole shtick is. And I used to have like a place for it in my repertoire of what I watched. And now there's no place. Like if when the psychic Rolodex of what I should watch goes around and it lands anywhere near Hammer horror, I just spin it again. I just get a cold, dead feeling and I spin it again. And then
I rarely go near the Dracula stuff. I kind of go more for like the weird offshoot stuff.
Yeah, I could see that. But I mean, they're all part and parcel. You know, there's definitely like an aesthetic that they go and I mean, good for them. And I'm not discrediting them, or I don't want to sound like I'm shit talking. Just for me, I lost my taste for it big time. And I don't know if it's that or if sometimes movies and it's like music, right? It's like my favorite record in the world. If I'm not in the mood to listen to it, I don't want to listen to it. It's because it's just not going to be anything other than a bother at that point in time. Or, there's something else I should be listening to instead. Same thing. So I don't know. Tori, what have you seen?
So I haven't watched much, but you guys, I finally watched Psycho Goreman.
Oh, nice. I knew there'd be a happy ending.
Oh. You guys, that was amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's so good. Like I knew it was gonna be funny, but I laughed out loud. Like more than like ugly laughs. That was so fucking fun. I can't. Oh my god, it's so good.
Hunky Boys.
Hunky Boys. I need a minute. No, but I had a theory. Okay, so hear me out. I know I kind of debunked it the more I thought about it. Hear me out. Don't worry, no spoilers, you guys. I promise. Okay, so in the movie, you remember when they're showing like the montage of PG's background, like war? They're showing alien worlds, you guys. And again, no spoilers. Just telling his backstory a little bit. Did you guys notice that one of the worlds was floating pyramids, like in the void?
Oh.
Yeah. Rewatch that movie. People that listen, please, if you watched PG, please tell me. In that montage, you see the floating pyramids from the void as one of the worlds. So I debunked this, but my first theory was, okay, what if the void and Psycho Goreman were the same story from both extremes? The void is the serious version.
Oh.
And Psycho Goreman is the kid funny version. Because Psycho Goreman and like the doctor at the end of the movie, they kind of looked alike to me. You know, when he transformed.
Now I can't, you're talking about Kenneth Welsh's character, and I can't think of what he looks. I can picture his silhouette where he's standing in front of the portal, right, but I can't picture what the actual practical makeup looks like. And I think it's because he's darkly lit.
I know, and people listening, I know I'm kind of stretching it. And again, the more I thought about it, I think I've debunked that whole theory I had initially, but it was fun for a second to think.
Why do you think you debunked it?
Because the more they talked about PG's like background, it didn't sound like a Lovecraftian type thing like the void is to me. But I don't know.
I think there could be. I really like your theory, and I think, whether or not it was intended by the filmmaker, I feel like it's fun because I think both movies leave enough open where, not that Psycho Goreman in any way. Like, I wouldn't go as far like what you said about it's the same story from different sides. I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to that, but what I would subscribe to is that Psycho Goreman had been in at some point the world that we see at the end of The Void, or it in some way had some knowledge of it or association with it or whatever. That I could totally see.
Yeah, because I don't. I'm a fucking nerd. I look at every little thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's the floating pyramids, and they're kind of the same size, like these big structures. Holy shit, that's from The Void." Maybe it's just the director doing a little nod to the, his first movie, but I thought it was cool. It's just everything I loved, and everything, especially as a kid. The great practicals. You got monsters. Gore. There's no boobies, so if anybody's weird about that, like my brother was asking me, hey, is there any nudity in it, because I want to show my 11-year-old.
Nice.
I was like, no boobie, go for it. That's really cool. Have all your children watch it. Look, Sean's doing about the theory now. Look at him.
That movie is so fun, and I watched it, I think 2 days in a row. And the second time I watched it, one of the things that I thought was hysterical that I didn't get the first viewing, listen to the fucking description of the crazy ball game. It's absolutely insane. I think it's actually comedy genius. The way, like, oh my God. And just the way that they utilize that description, like at the end when it's like she decides, the tournament, again, no spoilers, but and then they have to explain the rules, and it's like,
what?
It's just none of it makes even the littlest bit of sense. Like, there's no way you could actually play that game. It's impossible. So I just thought it was hysterical.
But come on, I know both of you probably made up a game like that with
not like that. I mean, dude, that is some fucking insane.
Change the rules to go along with what's going on at the time. And
it reminds me of in David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. There's a whole thing at this like Ivy League university where these like insanely intelligent college students make up a game that like emulates strategic missile deployment and defense. I mean, and it's like, I'm reading it, I'm like, and it's all footnoted because the book's notorious for like, hundreds of footnotes, but I'm like, at some point I just gave up trying to understand it because I'm like, the point of this isn't what they're saying, it's that nobody could fucking understand it. So it reminded me a lot of that, which is cool that Psycho Goreman for me, like it like reminded me of Infinite Jest. I hope that I hope that's a compliment to the filmmaker. I don't know. Oh my God. I'm glad you got to see it, because I knew last episode when you mentioned like how you had, you were kind of like, you'll rue the day because you had missed out on that group viewing. I knew you would love it.
I was so it's because I mean all those weird movies like I liked as a kid, Little Monsters, it's like the extreme.
Little Monsters, shit.
Little Monsters is scary. I just rewatched that.
I rewatched that like a couple months back, and it's still nuts. Like I was like sitting there watching, and I was like, "This." I really didn't. For some reason, when I was a kid, I saw it, and I didn't even think about the fact that like how unusual it is, and like how creepy some of the monsters look, and like boy is terrifying.
Yeah, the main, I don't know, Sean, if you've ever seen Little Monsters.
I never seen it, no.
You need to see that fucking movie. It's nuts. To know that it was made for kids is so crazy.
Psycho Goreman, but it is seriously like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, The Guyver, Nightbreed, everything. And it does little nods to a bunch of movies. I mean, come on. Did everybody see the Easter egg?
Which Easter egg?
Psycho Goreman dressed up as a little nod to Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah. That's common knowledge now. You know what? I actually didn't catch it because I don't even know that I've ever seen Jurassic Park. I mean, I've seen parts of it, but I don't know. It's just not my thing. I probably saw it at some point, but I read about that immediately, that he's dressed like is it Sam Neill? Sam Neill's character? Yeah. which is cool.
Dr. Allen. What a great movie. I definitely want to pre-order it. I'm not big on listeners, I'm not big on like buying movies. I'm pretty bad at it, but I definitely want to pre-order this. I highly, highly recommend it. Please watch Psycho Goreman.
Yeah.
Watch The Void.
It deserves. I'm curious. You know what I'm really curious is, as we've talked about on this podcast before, there's a level of like a lack of respect, or downright like hatred for The Void in a lot of places in the horror community that surprises the hell out of me.
Really?
And I'm really wondering. It definitely doesn't get its due. I'm really wondering if this will stop that. You know, it's like if these same people will then later come back around and be like, oh, well, you know, I also, you know, like if it'll change their opinion of the Void. I don't know, but
what's the problem with The Void?
Dude, honestly, anytime I've heard it down, you know, like shit, I won't say shit talk, but anytime I've heard people talk about not liking it, I just don't I do not understand. And to each their own, that's fine. I would never say you're wrong, but they're wrong.
But you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't see how anybody that's as in love with the genre, like, I don't know. It's just so
that's
weird.
One of those horror fans. See that? Those air quotes?
Yeah. The air quotes.
That's one of those horror fans that was like, damn, that remake of Friday the 13th by Michael Bay was fucking great. That's kind of the horror fan it was that doesn't like The Void. So
yeah, maybe.
I was gonna say, yeah, you have to wonder what they are fans of, or like what qualifies for them, you know.
I mean, there could just be something about it that turned them. I don't know. It's always, but I digress. We've talked about this before, so
still hurts, Sean. Still hurts.
It does. I agree. I just don't understand. I have not watched much, and in fact, I have not watched. I don't know that I've even watched a horror movie in a while, but I've seen a couple things that are television wise. And
I was so nervous coming in tonight because I didn't only watch that, and I'm like, fuck, I've only watched one thing.
No, man, I just had same thing what I said about the, you know, your favorite record or whatever. Like, I flipped through shit for I don't know how long last night, and more than just last night in the last couple of weeks. And I'm just like, nothing has motivated me.
Tonight's episode of Ray talks about what he's watching.
Yeah, no, but I have seen some stuff. So
no.
The first thing I want to say is for my first entry, 30 Coins, the Alex D. Iglesia series on HBO, just finished this week. And man,
I've heard something that I need to check that out.
I love, oh my God. We just, you know, it was every week on Monday, it was like, let's watch it. Like the one week where we didn't watch it on Monday, I was just like, fuck.
Something's missing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And I feel like anybody that's got HBO, or if you can do like a trial or whatever, man, you know, a friend of mine is out of the country right now for the foreseeable future. And he was like, I'm thinking about getting Netflix. I'm like, don't get fucking Netflix, because Netflix has, like, you know, the variety isn't there. They have some stuff that's great, and you know, but most of it's their own stuff. And I just said, right now, from like HBO Max is the best value for the money, because they have so much on there, because they also have Turner classic movies and you know, even besides that, like Adult Swim and stuff like that. But definitely, you know, the last year it was Raised by Wolves was the series last year. I think it was probably the best thing I watched, or my favorite series. And then now, you know, 30 Coins, and it's definitely horror, and it just has this. So what I realize is, I wouldn't say any of it was necessarily scary. That shouldn't dissuade anybody. Most things are not.
True.
But whenever horror is tied into Catholicism, it always especially interests or upsets me. And so this does both. And, you know, the 30 coins is a reference to the 30 pieces of silver that Judas got for betraying Jesus. But this really, like, it ties in all these really vast philosophical ideas into this. And so there's elements of that. There's elements that are a little bit more domestic. And then there's also like these insane action, like, there's really three main characters, and one of them is this priest played by Edward Fernandez. He plays Padre Vergara, and he's this kind of grizzled, but like he's beefy, and he's this, you know, Catholic priest, and he's assigned to this small town where the show mainly takes place near Segovia, Spain. And there's these scenes of him where like he'll be smoking a cigarette in a tank top, like beating a heavy bag, and he's all tatted up and shit underneath when he doesn't have his priest get up on. And then he also has a fucking arsenal behind like the altar. Like there's like a fake door and you go in and it's just filled with everything from, you know, countless machine guns, extra ammo, grenades. I feel like I think there's a fucking bazooka in there or something. And it sounds like it should just be ridiculous, and it is, but it works. There's something about the way, the style. And again, as I discussed previously, I've never seen any of Alex de Iglesias' other stuff. And I'm going to be like, I pre-ordered Day of the Beast, which was the big one because my friend Dennis has been a fan for so long. And it's just been hard to come by. And somebody pointed out to me recently, like, dude, you can like just rent that shit on VOD. And for whatever reason, I just didn't think about doing it or whatever. So I'm assuming this is his style, because I've always heard his flicks are like, there's like a funny element or like a comedic element. And this isn't so much comedic, but it is when you factor in stuff like the final episode. There's scenes with the three main characters just like tearing through this fog-filled small town with Uzis, like just shooting the fucking place up. And it's like, this is straight out of Commando or something, but it doesn't feel out of place. So it's a really interesting show. I can't recommend it enough. So.
Oh, he did Witching and Bitching. That's a fun movie.
That I'm going to watch soon. That is actually, I think, included on Prime. Dennis recently gave me a list of stuff to watch, and it starts with that. So that's definitely, you know, gonna happen.
That's definitely a fun horror comedy. It's really good. I stumbled upon it because I saw the cover and was like, oh, okay, looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed it. I think you'll like it. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. Ray, what do you got?
Let's see what else. I'll come back to that. Well, I finally watched all through The Love Witch because Joe Bob showed it along with Tammy and the T-Rex, which I just love that film. I can watch it anytime. Yeah. But I tried to watch The Love Witch I feel like maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And it just reached this point with me, and I was like, I'll continue this later. And then I just stopped, and I never went back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued. I finally finished it, and it was easier because Joe Bob had interviews and talked through it. So it kind of broke it up for me. But okay, I think it's well made. I think it's well made.
It's very well made. Yeah, I agree.
But I think one of the things that I stumble over while watching, when I first watched it, and even now when I watched it, was one, the fickleness of the lead character.
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of the point, but it still bothers me because she's still set up as kind of the hero of the film, even though she's so fickle and like can't quite figure out what she wants. And I feel like maybe the director is trying to speak a little bit through her, stating like, well, if she's fickle, it's because men are fickle too. But like, there's that, and like, there's this whole sensibility about it that feels like you feel like you're definitely watching something that was made by a woman who loves the Wiccan culture and Ren fairs. Because there's more than a couple moments where Ren fair, like Renaissance fairs kind of come up. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, what the fuck is this? And why is this here? Why do we suddenly just have this moment where they're like at Ren Fair? I don't get this. That and like I was struck by how odd it was to me, at least. I don't know about if you had the same effect, had the same response to this, but okay, so it's made by a woman. It has this feminine sensibility to it, but why are all the women stunning, like very like attractive? Like there's only like there's hardly any women in it that you think like she's kind of frumpy. Like most of them are like she's not bad looking at all to like stunning, and then the guys are all like frumpy, just like chubby. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Her take on men and women, that like men are kind of naturally more schlumpy and women are more attractive?
Well, especially in movies and especially from the male perspective, that's how women are always categorized. You're either beautiful or you're a frump, and we're used to that. So it's kind of her taking her power back. We're the thing. You guys are the frumps now, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I totally agree. Ray, I hate to say it, Ray, but based on you repeatedly discussing the attractiveness of the actresses in the other two movies you discussed, and now in this one, you're kind of proving the director's point.
No, I'll give that. That's fair. I didn't think about it that way. Okay. That's cool.
I mean, and hey, look, I you know what? I find women attractive. So like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying like, oh, I really like this movie. And you know, my God, this actress was beautiful or whatever. I don't think there's a problem with that at all. That movie is weird. Like I think it's I think it's a 4-star film for everything about it except actually watching it, because it definitely wears out its welcome at some point. Here's what I should say. The film is 4 stars. The narrative is about 2. And, you know, she does the thing where the acting is directed a certain way that it's a little bit like, it's not great. It's stilted. I believe that is Anna Biller, the writer director. I believe that's her. Like, I think that's on purpose. I think that is her direction for the actors and actresses. Well, I guess actors is the preferred term now. So I believe that is her direction for the actors, but I don't know. I mean, I can think of another movie like that, Killing of a Sacred Deer, where it's even more extreme. The acting at first, I was like, why is all that? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is on purpose. This is direction. But yes, that never wore out its welcome. I was fascinated by those choices and the whole film. This film, it meanders a little bit for my liking. And like by the time she has already met up with the actor that plays Griff, who ends up kind of being the love interest after, you know, several aborted love interests occur. Yeah, I'm kind of just done with the whole situation. It's still wonderful to look at, but it's
great to look at.
It really is. Like, and dude, she went, and like Anna Biller.
That's amazing.
The thing that put it on my radar was back in like 2017, when it first came out on VOD. Before Kirsten and I had been waiting to rent it, because we had read an article in LA Weekly where they talked about how Anna Biller actually, like that pentagram rug, she fucking made that. Wow. She sewed it. So that's the level of like the attention to detail and just the craftsmanship is outstanding. She shoots on fucking 35 millimeter film. Like, it's gorgeous, right? Yeah. And also really difficult for somebody who's not backed by a fucking studio to do that. And even if you're backed by a studio, it's difficult because the studio is just going to be like, no, for cost cutting, you're not shooting on 35 millimeter unless you're, you know, Quentin Tarantino or fucking PTA who shoot on 70 millimeter. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth watching. And I think like if Joe Bob had not showed it, I don't know that I would have watched it again.
I don't know if I would have completely sat through it because I tried, like I got in about probably 45 minutes the first time and I was just like,
Wait, what's the runtime for the movie period? Like the whole
It's like 2 hours. It's
Like 2 hours. Yeah.
because it was with Joe Bob, it was a 3-hour presentation total. And
It's lengthy, and like the other thing is that it doesn't feel like horror until literally the last scene.
I mean, I don't know that it's definitely adjacent. I don't know that it feels like horror at all.
Now, is it the way it is? Like even how it kind of meanders, you guys were saying, because it's a nod to like 70s movies?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that for sure. But also, I just think she wanted she wanted us to inhabit that world.
Okay.
Which is a weird world because you think it's the 60s, but it's not. So it's definitely anachronistic.
Yeah. I mean, bring back to the point about the acting. I think that's part of the point with the acting and the way that she's did some people is that she's trying to reference that period. But I don't know. Like I've seen other things where like it still comes off a little bit weird and stilted and jarring. Like there's other movies that are made and that aren't horror, but like I think it's called Down with Love, which is which is made as like it looks like it was made in the 60s, and it very much has the acting style, and like there's literally parts where like characters like they both say the same thing and then look at each other like in the 60s, like, oh, isn't this cute kind of moment.
It's like a modern day Doris Day, Rock Hudson.
Yes, exactly. But like it's done in that way, and this I don't know, like it almost feels like there's points where like you're like, did she collect people from a community college theater group and went, let's go film a movie? Like there's I saw a video where like there's this part where this stripper reacts to something that a bartender says, and the surprise face of this stripper, it was amazing. It's so bad, and it killed me because I was like, everyone else is trying, and like I don't know why she let that sneak by unless that was intentional to do like the
right. Yeah, it was intentional. I'll bet.
All intentional. It looks very cool. It does look like aesthetically very pleasing.
It's worth watching for sure. It's definitely worth watching at least once. I would suggest watch it with Joe Bob because also it's broken, like Ray said, it's broken up, and you get a lot of insight into the movie.
He interviews her like at the breaks, which is pretty good.
It's one of the longer interviews I feel like he's done. And it was all about craft. So it also, like some of his interviews, this isn't knocking it. I love this, but when he has icons on, they tell old stories and, blah, blah, blah. This was all about the craft because she's not tied into, any kind of real genre like iconography or whatever. I don't know, but it's worth watching. And let me just say that was the best Joe Bob special in a long time. I really needed that because some of the, like they've been doing the kind of gimmicks where it's like, oh, it was Halloween. They like we're in the cabin and I forget what it was for Christmas, but the telethon. I mean, he's great. I never say a bad thing, but it just.
I want the old Joe Bob.
Yeah. So, Tori, what else you got?
I've been watching Eli Roth's History of Horror.
Oh.
On show.
I've checked that too.
Yeah, really fun. Really, really fun. No matter what you feel about Eli Roth, I have mixed emotions about the guy.
I love him. I just hate all of his movies except Cabin Fever. Yeah, but otherwise, I really like him.
I like you, Eli. That's as far as it goes. Just kidding. I'm joking.
No, that's my stance.
No, but yeah. God, I love that he loves horror.
Yeah.
He's a fucking fan, and he goes for it, and these are his real heroes. Whether you like horror or not, I think it's a good documentary, even if you just like film.
Yeah, it's an interesting series. It's an interesting series.
Yeah, it's. I like how it's broken up too. You have zombies, you have your vampires, your monsters, body horror. It gets really about subgenres, which is really cool. The body horror episode was really awesome, you guys. You should really watch it.
I need to watch it. I watched some of that when they first started dropping it. And I know that they have a companion podcast as well. And I listened to some of that, but I need to go back to it. I would also say for people, like you said, even if you're not a fan of horror, I feel like it's a good way for anybody who's not a horror fan. I'm not saying like that you necessarily need to become a horror fan or that this will make you a horror fan, but if you're not a horror fan, or let's say you're listening to this podcast we're doing right now, you're probably a horror fan, but let's say your significant other or somebody, a good friend or whatever, somebody in your movie night crew, if you have one, they're not really into horror and they don't get what the appeal is. I feel like a lot of that documentary helps not only give a historical significance to horror and the different movements and like subgenres, within it. I feel it would help somebody understand what it is that's appealing about the genre.
Yes.
No, it definitely gives you a different perspective, especially if you don't know much about horror. Again, you're not into it. Yeah, I know I could play it for my mom, so she won't think I'm a psycho. Oh my
right.
Horror. But it's cool because it gets into the psychology of it. And even some of the episodes talk about movies that aren't necessarily like the first movie you would think of in that genre. So it's really interesting. Who knows? It might put something new on your list to watch too.
Yeah, definitely. Another one of the things that I watched recently, and Chris talked about this months ago. I don't believe I talked about this yet on here unless I mentioned starting it, but I've watched now the entire first season of Evil.
Oh, I know. This is on Netflix.
Yeah, so the first season is on Netflix, and I don't know if this is actually on CBS like the regular, or if it's one of their, now they have the all access. It might be on. Okay, it's all access. That makes sense, because if that was on network, I was like, that's pretty bold.
No, it is on network.
Oh, it is on network.
Yeah, my parents did.
Dude, it's a procedural for sure.
Yeah,
it is. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and Chris had recommended it, a couple people at work recommended it to me, and I just finally one night was like, I'll just throw on the first episode and see what happens, and it very quickly got me. And it's created by Robert and Michelle King, or a husband-wife writing team, and I guess they're more. Probably what gave them the cachet to do this show is they're responsible for that the Good Wife, which I know nothing. I could care less, but I see billboards and all kinds of stuff for it, so I know that it's like a big show. So that's probably how they got around to doing this. And it's a procedural that puts Katja Herbers as Dr. Bouchard, who's a forensic psychologist who is often an expert witness for the DA in court cases. Then you have Mike Coulter, who most people will know as Luke Cage from the Netflix series Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. He plays Daniel Acosta, who is a priest in training, and along with the actor Asif Mandvi, which I'm probably mispronouncing, who plays Ben, they're kind of a two-man team that go, and the Catholic Church will assign them different phenomena to investigate. So like, okay, we have reports of a possession. They're asking for an exorcism. Can you go check this out and verify it? But also like we have reports of a miracle. Can you go verify this? They end up meeting her, Dr. Bouchard, and getting her on their team. And so you have your procedural team, right? Which is important for that. And it seems like that setup doesn't sound extraordinary to me. Like it sounds like, okay, that's an easy way to kind of use like a horror theme a little bit for some procedural TV, whatever. It's not. It is really, there's some stuff in it that is unlike anything I've ever seen. And especially the way they like visually portray demons, and it's really interesting, and it got me. But like this first season ended, I thought there was a second season, and it was delayed because of COVID. So I think they started filming in November, and it's going to be out this year sometime. But I also read that they were saying it's going to be more character focused. So like that makes me wonder if they're going to be, the episodes will be more isolated. I don't think we're going to see the kind of ensemble on screen. The one person I forgot to mention who is the standout, and I mentioned last week because he's in the original Saw movie, is Michael Emerson, plays another forensic psychologist, expert witness, Dr. Leland Townsend. And man, if you know him from Lost, like many people do, and he was the slimy ass Ben, he is
gross in that.
But he is even more slimy. I mean, his reprehensible nature in this is nothing in the best way possible. It is breathtaking. So it's a great show, and the first season, like Tori said, it's on Netflix. And I'm just telling you, if you're a horror fan, give it one episode and see what you think about it. And I think most people will enjoy it. It's good, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So
yeah, it was the same thing. I don't like network television. I think it's either over the top stupid, or I'm just not into it. And that I was surprised. Didn't finish the whole first season. I'm probably 4 episodes in. I really like it. I love her friend. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, the first time you see that on screen, it's like
scared the shit out of me.
Well, and also they do a good job of like everything that seems to be very supernatural all of a sudden for a very reality grounded show. Then they'll like, oh, but look, in the light of day, it was this. But then later it's like, oh, wait a minute. No, this contradicts that. So is that real or is that not real? So they do a good job of really shifting back and forth. And Tori, when you get later on in the season, it becomes a little bit more concrete. A little bit.
Because I kind of like how it makes you, okay, is it really supernatural? Is it really there? Is she really seeing that? That's what I liked about it. So that's okay. Okay.
It's good. Stick with it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Very good.
Are you guys excited about anything coming out? Anything like tickling your fancy?
It's all that everyone's reacting to right now, and I'm like, I can't. Very divided by is that the Mortal Kombat trailer. I say that not to be shitty. Like, I'm not trying to be shitty and be like totally against it and be like, oh, it's gonna fucking suck. But I just very hesitant. Like when it comes to video games translated into movie properties, it's a little bit difficult, especially when you have things that are like fighting games. Like
Mario broke your heart, didn't it?
Oh, nice. Well, you know what? No, hold on. Yes,
I was just going to say, I believe Ray has defended that movie to me before.
But it's a terrible movie I will sit through. It's so bad, I like it. It goes back around again, and I'll sit there and fuck it. But anyway, back to Mortal Kombat. It immediately takes me back to being that age, going to see that movie with my friends. And I rewatched it probably about 6 months ago or so and was like, well, this is terrible. And I remember being at that age, going to see it with my friends, and we came home afterward and we were standing outside of my buddy's house, and we spent a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes, probably an hour, talking to each other about how fucking much we loved that movie. About how amazing it was, like, oh, the way they did that was so cool, and the way that Sub-Zero looked, oh, it's so bitchin'. And now I watch it,
don't lie.
This is shit. Like, it's terrible. And even the martial arts in it is terrible looking martial arts. And like, I'm not saying that necessarily is going to be the new Mortal Kombat movie, but it's just, how do you build a story around something that is such a simple concept? Unless it's literally like, you're just going to have live action, like fight, and then like, people fucking each other up, then fine, okay. But
I'm gonna disagree though, because Mortal Kombat has a story. Otherworld, they have a tournament every year to battle for the universe. Like, you could do a lot with that.
It looks like they did based on the trailer.
Oh, wow.
No, it looks like they did. It looks like they like, that's like the main, it looks like there is a plot line, which I feel like could be, I have no attachment to the franchise whatsoever. I watched that trailer. That movie is going to be for people like Anthony, who's a big fan of the games. It's going to be like the second G.I. Joe movie was for me. Like, it's not a great movie, but I love G.I. Joe because of my childhood, so I have an affinity for it. So, like, you do a halfway decent flick, and I'm going to be like, thank you. It's, it looks like, the only thing that I can say is that being that I believe it's Warner Brothers. Yeah,
because it's going to make HBO, I think.
That freaks me out a little bit because it's that second Godzilla movie, The King of Monsters, where he fights all the other monsters.
I couldn't see it.
I couldn't make it. I didn't see any of the other ones, but that one looks so pretty. And I have friends that really liked it. I couldn't even nothing happens. There's no fucking monster fighting for like the first hour. It's just this stupid shit with these humans. I'm like, why is it should have literally just been a movie with the most basic setup to get Godzilla kicking other monsters' asses for 2 hours. And they didn't do that. And so I'm wondering if Mortal Kombat will make the same mistake where they try to be too narrative heavy. And it's like, no, just get us there. Get us to the tournament in as few fucking steps as possible. There we go. I don't need to know who babysat Sub-Zero when he was 5. Or maybe I do. I don't know. I doubt it, though.
It's all tied together. You know what? I keep hoping for a fucking diamond in the rough, like Dread was. Dread went super radar.
Super good call.
Fucking love. Had a great trailer. And then you watch it and you're like, oh my God, that was great.
Fucking awesome.
That's such a good movie. I don't know one person that doesn't like that movie. So you hope for that. You hope like Mortal Kombat, please be like this. Or even just be like a fun gore fest or schlock. Like, okay, I'll have a good time. We can hang out for 90 minutes, you know?
Yeah, that speaks to Sean's point again, that like, you know, the thing that makes Dredd so good as compared to any, like the other Judge Dredd movie, besides the acting, is that
it's alone.
Besides that, it's that it doesn't do this whole thing of like, let's spend a lot of time telling you about Mega City 1 and telling you about it's the future and telling you about all this stuff. It's like, no. Go. Here's a little scroll at the beginning. You're into the action.
All you need.
And it doesn't fucking waste time. And it gets right into it. And you're like, this is excellent.
Yeah.
And like, hopefully Mortal Kombat will do that. It won't be like, you know, it won't be like, you know, I forget that actor's name, but the one who was playing Raiden and was like, it's no combat, but, you know, for much to fight each other. Then,
yeah, let's cast a British dude as an Asian guy too. That was.
You know what I heard about that? The reason they did that was that apparently Christopher Lambert was a big fan of the game, and so he not only said I'll be in the movie, but he put in a lot of money like towards the production and was like, I just want to be in the movie because I love the game. And so they were like, okay, cool, you can be Raiden.
Wow.
Yeah, all right. Well, just write in Raiden for him. Okay.
If you haven't seen it, Sean, you should see the original.
I'll never see it.
Just for that.
I'll never see it.
Remember.
I'll never see it.
The 90
Having
minutes.
it up all over the place. It's crazy.
No, I'll never see it. There's no way.
She's going, no.
I just have no interest. I mean, it remains to be seen if I even see the new one. Like if I probably won't lift my own devices. It's not, I'm sure, like, hopefully it will be for other people what that second G.I. Joe movie was for me. Not that it was that great, but it was, you know, again, it was like there was enough in it where I'm like, thank you for acknowledging us. So
yeah, it's not your go-to.
No, definitely not. I mean, I've never played the game once. I don't know anything about the story. All I know about it is fatalities as a you know, a thing. Other than that, I know nothing about it whatsoever. So. Tori, what are you looking forward to?
I'm excited they have the Strange Color of Your Body's Tears on Shudder right now.
Yeah,
I want to see that movie for a really long time.
Same here.
I had not heard about that, and then I saw it on there, and I was thinking about it one day because I saw it was a giallo, or described as a giallo. And then when Joe Bob did the "I Put a Spell on You," it was one of the commercials that ran, and I was like, what is this? That looks fucking amazing. Like, just so trippy.
Again, the directors, their first movie was another giallo called Amer, Amer. I've been wanting to see that movie for years. Can never fucking find it. I have the soundtrack on vinyl. Like, I don't know how I found that, but I have a difficult time finding this movie. Amer is a giallo. It's 3 acts of a woman's life. And it's like each time it's something new with her sexuality, something like a murder happens at the same time. So it sounds really interesting. I'm really curious to see it. but I think it's just 3 different stages in her life and how those 3 different things have connected. It's so fucking hard to find.
I didn't even realize that they had. So they also did Let the Corpses Tan, which is also now on Shudder, and that's like it's got a Western feel and definitely like almost like a Sergio Leone. Not exactly like if you've seen it, it's more the way that they craft the shots and stuff. I mean, it is the movie of fucking close-ups. There were so many close-ups or extreme close-ups in that movie. I could not even believe it. But it's like story-wise, it's not necessarily like a Sergio Leone spaghetti Western, but like location and craft-wise, it resembles that. And it's got very similar music. You can tell that they're very steeped in that. As I'm assuming Amir is as well, that kind of Ennio Morricone, like, you know, whether it's Morricone doing it or not, all of that Italian cinema, whether it's the Westerns or the Gialli, they all have that very, you know, it's not jazzy and it's definitely not rock, but it's breathy. It's very breathy. You know, you get a lot of these kind of spooky, you know, very ethereal.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Definitely. Yeah, the Amer soundtrack is great. And I used to put on Strange Color, that soundtrack, especially when I worked Graveyard. That's a great soundtrack too. That's really one to look for on vinyl, Sean, if you can.
Cool. I definitely will.
Okay, now I guess horror adjacent. I'm still waiting for The Green Knight to come out from A24 Studios.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but the trailer came out 2 years ago?
It's a lot like Saint Maud, which is I feel like I don't know. I understand
that's
that
on
Epics. I'm not getting Epics to watch that fuck. If they can go fuck themselves.
Well,
like,
you know
seriously,
what
you put it on Epics.
Well,
Who has fucking Epics?
And anybody not on the West Coast doesn't even know what the fuck Epics is because it doesn't exist outside of this area.
No. I'm not trying to fuck with you. I swear to God, it's the stupidest thing. When they had those Amazon days, they offered Epics for like 99 cents for like 5 months or something, and I was like, okay. And so I got to see. So that's on there. I haven't checked it out yet. I did watch Spontaneous because of that, for like whatever the cost was of Epics. And I really like that. If you haven't seen Spontaneous, check that out. It's very horror adjacent. It's super fun. And to me, it feels like the closest spirit animal that I've seen since Heathers. Like,
yeah, I could see that.
It's so dark and funny and brilliant when it comes to teenagers. Like, have you heard anything about this story? Do you know what it's about? I can tell.
No.
Very basic concept. It follows this girl she's just very disaffected teenager and doesn't give a shit about a lot of things. And one day she's just sitting there in class, and the girl who sits in front of her just blows up like a balloon, and it just blood splatter everywhere. and like she misses it because she's ducking down to get something at her desk, and then it comes up like there's blood everywhere, and like it's covered on other people, and other people start blowing up, other teenagers, and they don't know why it's happening. And like she just has this very like, well, fuck it attitude, and it's so funny. It is so funny. And like this guy who's in her class who likes her has been very hesitant to talk to her, and because he sees these other people start blowing up, he decides, well, there's no better time like today, so I'm just going to start talking to her, and they form a relationship. And it's very funny, very cynical, and like the lead is played by Catherine Langford. She was also in
she's in Knives Out.
Knives Out, thank you. Knives Out.
13 Reasons Why, I think, is the thing that brought her. I mean,
I didn't know her from, but I knew her from Knives Out.
I didn't know her from that either because I didn't watch it.
But Spontaneous, where she's a brunette normally, I think. But I fell in love with her character. Like I was sitting there and like she's just so funny and cynical and great.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a good movie. It's so
It is
much
very good.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, just it's so neat because of the world view. Like I think because if it were adults, they'd be panicking about it. And because they're teenagers and they just expect like bad shit's going to happen no matter what. Like there's kids blowing up, like their classmates are blowing up, just suddenly becoming like these blood balloons that just burst. And like they just have the, and she really has this attitude of like, so is this pill going to make me not blow up anymore? Cool. I'll take it. Oh, look, it's not working. She's so cynical and it's just so much fun, like to watch. Because she just expects everything that happens. She's not surprised by it.
You know what I'm looking forward to?
What are you looking forward to?
Kilroy was here.
Oh.
Kevin Smith's new horror movie, and the trailer dropped like around this time last year, and I remember thinking I have not been excited for anything he's done. I mean, you know, as I've said here before, Tusk. After that, I was done. The only one of his movies I can even watch anymore is Chasing Amy because I still think it's a masterpiece. But yeah, other people I know that have a similar kind of relationship with Kevin Smith and his films, where there was like this kind of falling out or whatever. Like they're convinced that the trailer is edited to look one way and the movie's going to be a hot mess. That's very well possible. But I want to like him and what he does. And so the trailer looks great. So I'm hoping, I'm really hoping. So I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm looking forward to that for sure.
I want to rewatch Tusk.
Oh,
I don't know. I feel like I didn't give it the fair shot that I should have. I don't know. Who knows? I'll probably be disappointed, but
I really feel like so much of that movie takes away from the camera work and Michael Park's performances, both of which are fucking fantastic. And just right now, I know there's other stuff coming out. I can't think of anything. I don't feel particularly excited right now about stuff in horror. So I'm hoping that the door swings back the other way soon and that changes.
Yeah, because 2021, I mean, it's not looking that different from last year. So
yeah, like you're talking about out in the world, right? So last year, I mean, one of the things that got me through was just like movie after movie after movie of just great shit. And right now, I don't feel like we've been set up to expect that. So I just hope a bunch of like really awesome shit falls out of the sky.
A24 Green Knight, please, because it was supposed to come out in May last year. Thanks.
But you know what? I think the thing to think about is that like when you talk about horror, like some of the things that like came out in the last year that like I didn't know about ahead of time or like suddenly just hit, and like then like we're suddenly on streaming services or suddenly were people telling me like check you or anyone else in the group here or like seeing online like, oh, check this out, it's so good. Like there was a lot of stuff that took me by surprise that I didn't see trailers for ahead of time that I hadn't heard beforehand. So I feel like that's probably going to be this coming year, that there's probably like the Dark and the Wickeds and things like that. Or like, other things that like aren't like big films or like things that even necessarily get like a lot of trailer attention, but like, and we're not hearing about, but like, they're just suddenly going to drop on something. And someone's going to see it and you're going to be like, holy shit, check this out. It's amazing. Like, I don't remember anyone talking about Host.
No, but that's because that was shot. Dude, think about it. That wasn't shot until COVID because it's about, so that it was like a very spur of the moment thing. But I know what you're saying. But
that's how good that is. It's so good because of the period. So, there's probably stuff out there that we just haven't heard of yet, but is going to hit, and we're going to be like, whoa. Oh,
there is. That reminds me. Actually, Neil Marshall has a new movie coming out. I'm blanking on. Well, he's got one he already filmed that is supposed to come out sometime soon, and then there's another one. And I did read something about Oh God, Cronenberg and Vigo are back together on a flick, right? That I think Vigo said it's going to be very body horror centric.
Yeah.
There is something else. So maybe maybe my antenna are just not tuned in to that frequency right now. But to your point, Ray, I'm not even just talking about big movies. Like I feel like The Beach House was a very small, underrated flick last year. I feel like I knew about that for months before it came out and was tracking it. Like, when's this going to hit? When's this going to hit? And I don't feel right now the same way. There's a couple, like The Vigil looks good. Although I'm getting a little weary of the stuff that looks like it's going after being the next Hereditary. Like, I feel like Saint Maud definitely, like, I want to see it, but I was unconvinced by the trailer, and I felt like the first time I saw the trailer for that movie, it was definitely going for being the Hereditary of this last year, and that's getting a little bit old, where it's like, come on, I get it as a marketing ploy, and just because they're cutting a trailer to look like that, or somebody's saying that up front, doesn't necessarily mean that's the vibe it's going to have. But I don't know. I would definitely like to see Saint Maud. I wish they would, release it in a way that somebody could fucking see it. That doesn't have epics, because I'm not getting epics. So I don't know. Okay. I think we should call it. I know Ray has other stuff.
It's okay.
But we'll do another one soon.
He's frothing.
Yeah.
I'm not
So in the interim, you guys take care, and everybody out there in listening land, take care. And remember, if your day suffers a little stumble, a chainsaw is always good to get things to rumble. I don't know. That made no sense. Yeah,
I liked it.
Maybe some horror greeting cards.
Sean.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't want somebody to go and kill their fucking neighbor with a chainsaw now, and then I get arrested and them trying to, well, you said
A chainsaw day kept the doctor away or something.
Now you just
chainsaw day will keep the doctor. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Just ruined my evening plans. Thanks, Sean.
Sorry. All right, guys. Godspeed. He's just been in a bunch of stuff. Well,